If you're a stay-at-home parent and all the retirement money is in your spouse's name, your future is at risk. One accident, one layoff, one bad bet, one divorce, and life can look nothing like you planned. Love is great, but it's not liquid. I'm Allie Jane Ayers, and this is Money Changes Everything. Am I saving enough? Number 4, how to retire as a stay-at-home spouse. A Sam, a stay-at-home mom, with old 401ks wants to know, can I retire too? Key takeaways. Even without earned income, there are ways to build long-term wealth as a stay-at-home parent. Married filing jointly, you may be eligible for a spousal IRA even if you don't work. Your family's financial plan should account for both of your retirements, not just the working partners. When you don't bring in a paycheck, it's easy to feel like you don't get to ask the big financial questions. Questions like, am I saving enough? Do I get to retire too? Will I have money in my own name, or will I always be tied to someone else's account, someone else's income, someone else's plan? The gender politics of raising children is not my realm of expertise. Might I suggest some excellent reading to you? All the Rage by Darcy Lockman or All the Single Ladies by Rebecca Traister. But financial planning for families where one person stays at home, that's my thing. And this is the kind of scenario that pisses me off in just the right way to talk about. You made the hard choice to press pause on one career to keep the rest of the household functional. You didn't retire early, you became chief everything officer, and now you're invisible to every financial system that thinks a household only has value when it comes with a W-2. There are plenty of retirement calculators for dual income households with 2 401ks and employer matches, but there's very little guidance for the person who took a step back from paid work to raise children or manage the family's day-to-day life. Or, if there is guidance, it comes in the form of silly, condescending books like How to Help Your Husband Make More Money So You Can Be a Stay-at-Home Mom. It's an actual book. And yet, just because you don't earn a salary doesn't mean you can't build wealth. Just because you don't have a paycheck doesn't mean you don't deserve a financial plan. And just because no one is depositing money into your account right now doesn't mean your future should be dependent on someone else's. Can you tell I'm a child of divorce? When a reader reached out to ask how to save for retirement as a stay-at-home mom, I didn't give a polite, generalized answer, as I sometimes do. I built out a scenario to show what's possible. I invented a couple I think many people will hopefully see a bit of themselves in. Meet Jenna and Mark. Jenna is 41. She worked in operations at a tech company until 2015, when she left her job after their second child was born. Since then, she's been home full-time. She has about $72,000 sitting in 2 old 401ks from past employers, but she hasn't made any new contributions in years. Mark is 43 and works as an engineer. He earns $200,000 a year, has a 401k through his employer with a 5% match, and is currently contributing 10% of his income. They live in Oregon with their 2 school-age kids. They have a mortgage, no other debt, and about $30,000 in a high-yield savings account. Jenna's question is simple. Am I saving enough even if I'm not the one earning? How to save when you have no income. The US tax code, brought to you by post-war patriarchy and vibes. It rewards 2-parent households with just enough income spread between spouses and no one asking too many questions. The good news? There is a loophole, and it's called a spousal IRA. And yes, it's legit. If you're married and filed jointly, the non-working spouse can contribute to their own IRA as long as the working spouse earns enough income to cover it. In 2025, that's $7,000 a year, or $8,000 if you're over 50. Mark earns more than enough to qualify. The spousal IRA can be either a traditional IRA or Roth IRA. The rules are too nuanced to bore you with today. My advice to Jenna is to set up an IRA in her own name while working with an accountant or financial advisor to make the contribution and invest the money. One person can only contribute a total of $7,000 to an IRA in 1 year, so this financial advisor or accountant can help her figure out which type is best for her. Next, let's deal with the old 401ks. Jenna has 2 accounts from past jobs totaling about $72,000. Pretty good saver. There are 2 good options here. Option 1 is to leave them alone. Yes, really. As long as the investment allocation is appropriate, in other words, the money is distributed well amongst a mix of investments and the contact information is up to date, there's no harm in keeping an old 401k, especially if it's with a low-cost provider. People worry about high fees, but unless you're in a very old and outdated 401k plan with truly outrageous costs, I would consider anything over 2% management fee to be truly outrageous. We're usually talking about an expense ratio below 1% or a small maintenance fee. Anything below 2% is somewhat reasonable for your 401k. I'd prefer to see 1% or lower. And if rolling your 401k feels like a Herculean task that you're not actually going to get done, let's just not bother with it and stop feeling guilty about it. Option 2 is to consolidate. That means rolling both 401ks into what's called a rollover IRA at a different custodian. A custodian would be Vanguard, Fidelity, or Schwab, or something similar. This makes it easier to manage the money in one place, invest in low-cost index funds, and view the account as an active part of Jenna's future, not a leftover from a past life. There's no right or wrong answer here, just the choice between simplicity now or simplicity later. Are they on track? Mark is contributing 10% of his $200,000 income to his 401k, and he's receiving a 5% employer match. That adds up to $30,000 annually. If Jenna starts contributing $7,000 to her own IRA, the total household retirement contribution rises to $37,000, or 18.5% of their total gross income. That's close enough to my general guideline of saving 20% of gross income towards retirement, which includes all contributions and matches. They're doing well, but there's still room to optimize. Mark could increase his contributions gradually, aiming to max out his 401k at the federal limit, which is $23,000 for this year, 2025. They might not get there this year, but even at a 1% increase annually, that will get them there in a few years. Of course, the math is only part of the question. When Jenna asks if she is doing enough, she is not just asking about contribution limits or tax strategies. She is asking if she matters. She is asking if her work, her sacrifice, and her time have value. And she is asking whether her financial future will be secure or always dependent on Mark's career and goodwill. This is why I always tell clients that raising children is not a gap in your resume, and it should not be a gap in your retirement plan either. You should have accounts in your name. You should have money you can access. You should not be a financial afterthought in your own household. If Jenna and Mark ever split up, as statistics tell us there's a 50% chance they will, she will need more than just good intentions. She will need money in her name, documentation of her contributions, and a plan. That includes retirement accounts, life insurance, a potential reentry strategy if she wants to go back to work, and yes, some legal and financial advice along the way. Marriage is not a financial plan, and love is not a substitute for liquidity. Social Security benefits. Even if she hasn't worked in a decade, her previous earnings still count towards her Social Security record. She should create an account at ssa.gov and review her work history to ensure all her years are recorded accurately. To qualify for her own benefit, she needs 40 credits, which typically equals 10 years of work. If she returns to part-time work or freelance work, even a few $1,000s of annual income can help her accumulate more credits and potentially increase her retirement benefits. As a spouse, Jenna may also be eligible to receive up to 50% of Mark's benefit once he claims Social Security, as long as they remain married and she meets the age requirements. And if they divorce after 10 years of marriage, she may still be eligible to claim spousal benefits based on his work record. But Social Security benefits do not stack up on top of each other. She will receive the higher of her own based on her work history or his, not both. So yes, even a modest side hustle can matter, not just for spending money or self-worth, but also because it contributes to her Social Security record and gives her potentially more options in the future. Some people will tell you it's fine to skip all this because it's all our money anyway. I've heard the argument that everything I have, I give to her. Why complicate it? That sounds sweet until you remember that life is not static and our divorce rate is 50%. People change, laws change. Marriages change, and banks do not care about your wedding vows. Oh, and I'm sure you've heard about these secret families where a spouse has an entirely different family in another town or another state. Yeah, that happens when one spouse controls all the money. Good financial planning is about protecting yourself from the outlier events you never saw coming, the ones that turn a good year into a very bad month. A car accident, a sudden illness, a layoff, or even a partner's mental health crisis can shift everything overnight. If only one spouse controls most of the money, a family emergency can quickly turn into a financial crisis. Not because there isn't enough money, but because the person who needs it can't access it. Having accounts in your own name is not about distrust at all. It means you can make a withdrawal without asking permission or prove ownership without digging through joint statements. It's not a judgment on the relationship. It's a safeguard for both humans inside of it. So, are they saving enough? Sure, if saving enough means relying entirely on your husband's 401k, two crusty old 401ks from 2014, and the vague hope that Social Security doesn't get defunded by the government. Or she could have her own plan. Retirement is not just for earners, it's for everyone who's ever packed a lunch, scheduled a dentist appointment, and waged psychological warfare with the school district over whether their kid is a morning person. Jenna needs her own IRA, her own login, her own investments that she understands well enough to explain them to someone else, but only if she wants to. She needs to consolidate her retirement accounts, not because it's the right thing to do, but because she deserves fewer logins and more power. Mark's doing fine, but Jenna matters too. So fund the spousal IRA or set up a joint account of some kind that both partners have access to. Keep investing slowly and steadily and resist the urge to click on whatever TikTok bullshit is promising 11% returns with no risk. Like, please don't do that. I am so tired of myth busting. Financial security isn't just for the person bringing in the paycheck. It's for the person doing the work that makes the paycheck possible. Retirement planning should reflect both of their lives, not just the income and job title. It should reflect the full picture, including the years that don't show up on a resume. Because the goal isn't to save enough, it's to build a life that gives you choices. Here's my parting shot. You can love your partner and still want your own money. In fact, you should.